So many headlines, so many stories going into championship weekend. Joining us is ESPN college football analyst, our friend Roddy Jones. Roddy, good morning. How you doing?
DA, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great, brother. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, let's start with the Tennessee coaching search because this thing just keeps getting more peculiar, more bizarre by the day. When you look at Tennessee, do you think that it's no longer an interesting job or an attractive job because of all the dysfunction around it?
It's I don't really know how to get my arms around what's gone on at Tennessee. I mean, this is probably historically the second most successful program in the SEC. And not only have they been turned down by numerous coaches now, if you believe the reports, most recently, they go after Dave Dorn at NC State, and he turns the job down. And the fact that let's just consider the fact that they're going after Dave Dorn at NC State. I mean, Dave Dorn has done a decent job at NC State, but he had arguably the second best team in the ACC this year and managed to lose 4 games. So he didn't exactly set the world on fire. But, the fact that now they're looking for an AD, they're looking for a head coach. If I'm a coach, I don't know if I take that job because I don't know what I'm walking into. And I don't think the people at Tennessee can feel confident enough in telling me what I'm going to walk into to convince me to get there. It's always going to have that allure because of the fact that they're close to so many fertile recruiting areas because of the history. But that job may be a coaching cycle away from being a really attractive one because it is an absolute dumpster fire right now.
So, we have reports today that Philip Fulmer, the old head coach there, could have been sabotaging the current head coaching search because he wants to be the new AD. And the former AD, John Curry, was fired earlier this morning. Is there backstabbing and politics like that go on in a lot of athletic departments, or is that rare?
I would say that the backstabbing part of it, that's more rare, but the politicking, man, that's throughout. I mean, everyone's kind of jockeying for that position, and he has meant so much to that school that, I mean, he probably feels like he deserves a shot to run it. I mean, the last time Tennessee was relevant on a national stage, Philip Fulmer was in charge of a football program. So in his mind, he may feel like, hey, I'm the only guy that can turn this thing around. Now, I don't think that Philip Fulmer necessarily has to go to those lengths to get that look. And he's got enough respect and he's involved with the program that I think that, he's got enough connections where he doesn't have to sabotage the current guy to do it. But if you're looking for an opportunity to get in, I mean, it's a pretty good one when the coaching hires start to go bad and the school starts to look like an embarrassment. They're looking for a white knight, and Phil Fulmer may ride in and save the day. So, I would say the backstabbing is probably rare, but the politicking, I mean, that's everywhere.
College football analyst Roddy Jones joins us here on the show, former star college football player himself. Let's look at the ACC championship game. This is the conference you're most connected with. And what would it take for Miami to pull the upset over Clemson on Saturday?
That turnover chain is going to have to make quite a few appearances because if you watch the Miami-Pitt game at all, I think the thing that was most striking was how bad Malik Rozier was. I mean, it was almost like he had to try to be that bad. I mean, certainly he wasn't trying to miss the open receivers that he missed and to make some of the mistakes, but I mean, it was an uncharacteristically poor performance from him. And this is a guy who hadn't lit the world on fire through like the first 3 quarters of most games, but somehow in the fourth quarter always turned it on enough for them to win the game. Now, Clemson is not the Clemson that we've seen in the past with Deshaun Watson. They're not going to get into these high-scoring affairs where they're going to put up 50 points on a really good defense like they did with Deshaun. They just don't have the guys on the outside. They don't have a Mike Williams, a Jordan Leggett, certainly capable receivers with Deion Kane, Hunter Renfrow. But Kelly Bryant's not the same passer. It's going to be more power run game. It's going to be more downhill, more ball control. So Miami's going to have to get the ball out a couple of times because as good as that Miami front 7 is, Clemson's got 4 guys on the front on their defensive line that all have a potential to be first-round picks, and I can say pretty confidently that all of them will be first- or second-round picks. I mean, these guys are absolute monsters. The 11 sacks you saw against Auburn earlier this year, they just turn over. I mean, they control games. So I think Miami's going to have a hard time running the football. I think Miami's going to have a hard time blocking these guys in the pass game. So that turnover chain is going to have to come out a couple of times. And then Miami's going to have to play really well on offense in terms of not turning the ball over, being efficient in the red zone. Because if they don't, if they're settling for field goals, eventually Clemson just wears you down.
Roddy Jones, college football analyst, our guest here on the DA Show on CBS Sports Radio. On the SEC side of things, look, you've got no love lost for the Georgia Bulldogs, having been a yellow jacket yourself. However, this line is interesting because even though they got blown out at Auburn a couple of weeks ago, this is only about 1.5 Vegas says Auburn favored. Maybe that has to do with Kerryon Johnson's injury, but can it be that different? I mean, can Georgia go from getting blown out by 30 points 3 weeks ago to actually knocking off Auburn tomorrow?
I think it's closer. I think Auburn's a better football team even without Kerryon Johnson. Auburn dominated that game earlier this year, and I don't think Georgia could play that poorly again. And it was a hostile environment. And I think people look at the fact that Georgia just dominated Georgia Tech and they feel like they've got the momentum. Let's not forget, Auburn just beat handily the team that for most of this year everyone thought was the best team in the country in Alabama.
Right.
I'm not sure there's a team in the country that's playing better than Auburn. So as good as Georgia looked against Georgia Tech, I mean, I love my Jackets, but let's consider the opponent here. This is a Georgia Tech team that got blown out by Duke. So this was not a signature win for Georgia. I'm not sure they're a much different team. Now, certainly if the momentum starts to go their way, they can kind of get on a rhythm, but get on a roll. But if you're asking me, to look down the two rosters and who I think's better, Auburn's still a better team, and Jarrett Stidham is playing really well. I think we're really seeing why people were excited about him coming into this year. Auburn's playing the best ball of anybody in the country. So I think Auburn wins, and I think this line is way too close, to be completely honest with you.
I agree. So let's look at maybe the possible puzzle pieces here of the college football playoff. We assume the ACC title game, the SEC title game are playing games. Winner's going to get in. And then the other two are interesting. Ohio State, perhaps if they win, they're in. Maybe if TCU knocks off Oklahoma, that opens up a slot, obviously. If it came down to Alabama or Ohio State in the Final Four, who do you think is more deserving?
I personally feel like if you don't win your division and you don't play in your conference championship, then you should not have a chance to win a national championship. It goes back to the old tongue-in-cheek Steve Spurrier quote after Alabama won the championship. I believe it was in 2009 when they beat LSU after not winning their division, when he said it's harder to win the SEC than it is the national championship. And I just feel like there should be some form of merit. Now, that being said, I think the committee puts Alabama in over Ohio State because it's going to come down to the fact that I think that I don't think the committee will forgive Ohio State for giving up 55 points to Iowa. I think if you put Alabama in that situation, even under the worst of circumstances, they don't give up 55 points at Iowa. There's just no way that happens, in my opinion. So I think for that reason, and if you look at all the advanced metrics, the strength of schedule, strength of record, Alabama is going to rank higher than Ohio State in most of those. Maybe not in strength of record, but I really feel like Ohio State's going to have to lobby in order to get – they have to win convincingly against Wisconsin. But even then, I'm not sure it helps them that much because people will just discount Wisconsin then. People – I feel like they're kind of waiting for that opportunity. So it's going to be tough for Ohio State to jump Bama if they were to win.
It looks like Jimbo Fisher, significant momentum towards taking the A&M job. We'll see if it ends up happening. Do you view the A&M job as better than Florida State and what he has there?
No, I don't think it's a better job, but if the relationship is soured and with the amount of money that they are reportedly throwing at Jimbo Fisher, I mean, I've seen reports of $80 million guaranteed. That's like life-changing money. These coaches are rich and they make a lot of money, but none of them are making $80 million over any period of time. So I'm not sure how you turn that down, to be honest with you. And I think the thing that gives this the most credence and the most momentum is the fact that you're now seeing Florida State recruits start to decommit and open up their commitment. And when that starts to happen, coaches usually jump on it. They say, hey, look, no, I am staying. Let's keep these guys. I'm not going anywhere. But as these recruits start to look elsewhere, Jimbo Fisher's been very silent. And I, if I was Florida State, and I think they were trying to do it, I think they were trying to push him for a decision before this game this weekend. He obviously doesn't want to do that. He wants to finish out the season with his team. But once recruits start to look elsewhere, especially with Dan Mullen coming in right down the road at the University of Florida, a fantastic recruiter who now has access to all of those recruits and the cachet that comes with being the Florida head coach, it would be really worrisome to me if I were a Florida State fan. I don't think Texas A&M is a better job, but they are really doubling down. And that amount of money, I'm not sure how you walk away from it. I don't make millions of dollars, but if I did and somebody threw $80 million more at me, I'd be tempted to look at it too, and I'm not sure how I turn it down.
Yeah, we're all in that boat, I think. Roddy Jones joining us, college football analyst, star at Georgia Tech in his playing days, and we always love having him on talking college football here on the show. Roddy, it's been a wonderful year, man. I truly appreciate all the times that you have joined us, and hopefully we can do it again, man, as the months move forward, buddy. Thank you so much.